If you're writing a book, I'd love you to think about brainstorming your scene just a little bit. We're going to look at Harry Potter for some inspiration. I'm Kim Purcell. This is the Busy Writer Workshop, where I help people of all ages write books and have a lot of fun doing it. First, the hook. How are you going to pull in the reader? Let's look at how J.K. Rowling does that. Nearly 10 years had passed since the Dursleys had woken up to find their nephew on the front step, but Privet Drive had hardly changed at all. That's a hook, waking up to find someone on your front step. Also, we're wondering, how has it not changed at all? All you're doing with that hook is making the reader wonder. You're planting questions in our minds, so we keep reading. Second, setting description. Try and go through all the senses. You want to think about what are the details you're going to mention pretty early on in your scene. We need the wide shot, we need the close-up. The sun rose on the same tidy front garden and lit up the brass number 4 on the Dursleys' front door. Then we get some zoomed-in close-ups of the pictures on the mantle, and we see that there's a lot of Dudley, and there's nothing of Harry. We find out that, yes, Harry is there. He's sleeping in his room. 3, action in the beginning of the scene. What is physically happening? Aunt Petunia knocks on his door. She's screaming at him to get up. Harry heard her walking toward the kitchen, and then the sound of the frying pan being put on the cooker. All right, so I want you to notice we had the sense of sight earlier, and now we have the sense of sound. Remember, you need multi-sensory description throughout. His aunt was back outside the door. "Are you up yet?" she demanded. "Nearly," said Harry. "Well, get a move on. I want you to look after the bacon, and don't you dare let it burn. I want everything perfect on Dudley's birthday." Harry groaned. All right. So the dialogue shows a lot about this character, Aunt Petunia. We also learn a lot about the importance of Dudley in this household. Then we get Harry thinking about the past birthdays, how Dudley always gets so much and he doesn't get anything. We get some backstory about their relationship. Number 4, remember, you want to describe your characters. You don't have to do a ton of description. Don't focus on hair color or eyes, but we do want to know some kind of distinguishing feature. We get that here. Perhaps it had something to do with living in a dark cupboard, but Harry had always been small and skinny for his age. He looked even smaller and skinnier than he really was because all he had to wear were old clothes of Dudley's, and Dudley was about 4 times bigger than he was. Harry had a thin face, knobbly knees, black hair, and bright green eyes. He wore round glasses, held together with a lot of sellotape, because of all the times Dudley had punched him on the nose. Now remember, you want to also show the main character, a little bit of their thoughts, a little bit about them. The only thing Harry liked about his own appearance was a very thin scar on his forehead, which was shaped like a bolt of lightning. He had had it for as long as he could remember, and the first question he could ever remember asking his Aunt Petunia was how he got it. So now we get a little bit more description of Harry Potter's room, and it makes us really sympathetic toward him. So remember to add details that create a reader-character connection. Show their kindness, show their difficulty, whatever it is. J.K. Rowling does a great job of that in the first couple pages. Harry got slowly out of bed and started looking for socks. He found a pair under his bed, and after pulling a spider off one of them, put them on. Harry was used to spiders because the cupboard under the stairs was full of them, and that was where he slept. So we have sympathy. Who sleeps in a cupboard? So now you've got the hook, the setting description, the character description, and some action. I'm going to give you a moment now to brainstorm the first 4 elements. First, the hook. How are you going to pull in the reader? Second, setting description. Try and go through all the senses. 3, action in the beginning of the scene. What is physically happening? Number 4, who are the characters? And can you write just a little bit of description of what they look like in this particular scene? All right, pause me now and brainstorm those 4 elements. Now we're going to look at the dialogue in the scene. What kind of dialogue are you going to have in your scene? And how will it reveal character or information that's necessary for your plot? It should be funny or interesting or reveal something. And you need to jump into the middle of the dialogue. Don't add all the boring stuff before what's really interesting. Dudley comes in, counts his presents, and this is what he says. 36, he said, looking up at his mother and father. That's 2 less than last year. We know Dudley is spoiled. Okay, he starts freaking out. The parents do whatever they can to make him not cry. They're like, don't worry, we'll get you more. We learn about the family dynamic through the dialogue. So what are you revealing in the dialogue in your story? Dudley's going to go to the zoo. And Harry Potter, he never gets to come, but this time the neighbor has a broken leg, so he has to come. Harry wants to go to the zoo. Dudley doesn't want him to go. And the aunt and uncle really don't have a choice, even though they don't want him to come. Now they want him to behave. You have to know what everybody wants, especially your main character. Harry gets a warning from Uncle Vernon. He says, "Don't mess up. I'm warning you," he had said, putting his large purple face right up close to Harry's. "I'm warning you now, boy. Any funny business, anything at all, and you'll be in that cupboard from now until Christmas." "I'm not going to do anything," said Harry. "Honestly." Okay, so we have a warning. We love warnings in books. Okay, it makes us scared. It's great. Can you think of a way to add a warning? That's good foreshadowing. Foreshadowing is when you warn the reader that something's coming and it's not great. All right, pause me now. I want you to brainstorm. What do all the characters want in the scene? How do they conflict? And what are you going to reveal in your dialogue? Can you think of a way to add a warning? Let's take a moment now also to brainstorm backstory. If it's the beginning of your story, just think, could I delay that information? Because remember, our biggest goal is to pull the reader in and make them want to keep reading. If you are going to give backstory, can you give it in dialogue or can you give it in the main character's thoughts? Don't just jump in as the narrator or author and just dump a bunch of stuff down. That's going to be boring for sure. See if you can filter it through the main character's lens. You might be wondering, well, where can I add the backstory? The insertion of the flashback or the backstory has to have a reason. So it does here because he's just received a warning and now he's going to think, oh, I did that, I did that, I did that. So it makes sense to have it here. We learn that Harry messes up often when they go on these trips. Weird things happen to him. We know it's because he's magical, but Harry doesn't know. Just make sure you're not ripping us out of a gripping scene in order to tell us stuff. Trust the reader that we can wait to find out all that information till later. All right, so pause me now. Write down any kind of backstory you might want to add to your story. So now you have the character's goal. We have to think of what the main obstacle or problem in the scene is going to be. In Harry Potter's case, it's to be good and not to cause problems. He's heading to the reptile house and we know something bad's going to happen. So if you were brainstorming this, you have to think, well, what would cause problems for him? Usually the magical stuff for him, because that's what's happened in the past. He can't control it. You have to think, well, what kind of magical things could happen at the zoo? Uncle Vernon tapped on the glass, but the snake didn't budge. We all know it's not very nice to tap on glass. So we're really not liking this family very much, and we are feeling sympathy for the snake. And guess what? So does Harry. Harry starts to talk to the snake, but he doesn't know he's talking in parcel tongue, which means he's hissing, making weird noises, and Dudley sees him and basically throws him onto the floor, surprising Harry, and then the glass around the snake disappears, probably because Harry did it magically. Ta-da! I'm going to get you to brainstorm a couple more things. Your main character is going to have mistakes, problems, a past, things that they're vulnerable to. So you can design that obstacle or problem perfectly for the scene, perfectly for the character. Let's see if you can pause me now. What are mistakes that could happen? What's happened to them before? What have they done wrong? What are their fears? What are their insecurities? What's the problem? My encouragement is, don't just wing it, because usually you'll waste a lot of time. You'll have to rewrite your scenes, or you'll have to add all these details. It's good just to think about it a little bit before, okay? All right, bye everyone.